for in 3 weeks. So at least we'll be able to do it.
Welcome everyone to the December meeting of Greater Hume Shire Council. Could I please have David Schmidt to the line, please?
Good evening, everyone. Most of you I know, but not everyone. Thank you, Colin. I've got 3 minutes. Should be able to do that in 3 minutes. I'm going to give you a little history lesson first. We're going to go back to Friday, 18th of July, 1890. And in the Albury Banner and Wodonga Express, the forerunner of the Border Mail, there was an article about flooding in Gindra, and the article proposed that the secretary of the Gindra Progress Committee write to the council engineer regarding the drain at the west side of town. 134 years ago. In the 60 years from 1890 to 1949, we see 12 similar articles in the press relating to flooding in Gindra. At times, the residents of Gindra taking matters into their own hands to try and alleviate this flooding by building a diversion channel. As recently as 2022, houses have been inundated in Gindra. In the 1980s, we were advised by the then town planner that our parcel of land, this is the Gindra Lutheran Church block, which you will be discussing tonight, that our parcel of land is the direction in which Gindra will expand, and we need to be ready when the time comes. And the zonings you have done since 1980 have shown that to be the case. In 2017, land prices had risen sufficiently in Gindra to begin the design process for stage 1 on this property. Unfortunately, at the same time, the New South Wales government introduced some environmental legislation, which has impacted our early plans. And even this year, another state government department prevented us from proceeding. The church is pleased that council staff have found a way around this latest barrier. It is disappointing that we will not see things such as the upgrade to Gindra Street that we would have contributed to in the early designs, but they can no longer take place. So here we are now, 134 years after a press article on flooding, 40 years after being advised to be ready, 7 years after we started drawing up plans, and you have in your hands a comprehensive flood study adopted in 2015, a design for a new channel completed in 2021, and an opportunity to begin works to mitigate flooding in Gindra and to provide land for much needed housing. Stage 1 of the mitigation works can be made possible by allowing this development to go ahead. The church is pleased to be able to enter into a planning agreement with council that will see council provide the drainage works in conjunction with the subdivision civil works. But the drainage works cannot proceed unless this development is approved. Lands cannot be released until this development is approved. There's virtually no room left
30 seconds
to expand until we start developing this site, and we are committed to continue development to allow Gindra to expand. Family-orientated subdivision is what we're about. Gindra is still the place where young families come and make it their homes. Please look at us favourably tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Is there any questions for David? Thanks, Mr. Quinn.
In the report, business paper, the footpath, is that on the western side?
So footpath is on the western side of our road that we have to make, and it will be one of many footpaths when we develop that block. And unfortunately, we were going to upgrade Gindra Street with council and provide a footpath there, but that can't happen with the current state government regulations. If council wants a footpath in Gindra Street, you'll have to do it yourselves.
Further question, why can't you expand Gindra Street, and why can't you what's happening with the New South Wales government legislation?
We had to take down 125 trees to do that initial design. More than half of them were on council land, and the cost, we would have had to have paid the environmental fees to be able to take them down. plus the fact that that legislation doesn't like you taking down trees. And so we had to walk away from that. Council had to walk away from it and come up with Plan B. We would have loved to have done Plan A.
Is access to the subdivision coming onto Ginger Street, or is it coming in?
There are two accesses onto Ginger Street.
That creates significant traffic for a small street.
Ginger Street. But the accesses are close to Dyke Street and Pioneer Drive. Not right on them, but close to them.
Okay, thanks.
I have just one comment that there's a lot of pedestrians walking along Ginger Street at the moment, isn't there? So that's a bit of a concern for us as council. For council. I have to think wisely about that. Thank you, Dave. Any other questions? Thanks, councillor Shield.
Just one, I was going to ask it later, but we were, so the developer as yourselves, is that you're saying definitely that you can't provide the footpath, council must?
No, we're providing a footpath on the road we have to build.
Right. Just to clarify, because
Yeah, but I agree that Ginger Street probably needs a footpath, but that's may have to be your problem.
Thank you. No other questions? I think would be fine. Thank you. So welcome to the December meeting. In accordance with the council's code of conduct, code of meeting practice, the council meeting is being recorded and will be placed on council's webpage for public information. All present today are reminded that by speaking, you are agreeing to your views and comments being recorded and published. You're also reminded that if and when you're speaking, that you're respectful to others and use appropriate language. Hume Council accepts no liability or any defamation or offensive remarks or gestures during the council meeting. Can I have the prayer, please, Councillor Morton?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your blessings. We ask you for your strength and guidance throughout the meeting and thereafter as we serve the residents of this shire. We ask for clear thinking and sincere hearts as we approach the business matters we will be discussing shortly. We ask for your blessing upon this meeting, each participant and the work and people they represent. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Morton. Acknowledgement to country. I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held in the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri people and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. Do we have any apologies, please?
We have one apology for you, Madam Mayor, from councillors.
Thank you. May I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Morton, Councillor Shield. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes for previous meeting.
I'll move those minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Higgs. Thank you, Councillor Lindo. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Action reports from the minutes. Is there any comments or commentary or questions? If you could please state the page number or that, sorry, the.
No, I just have a comment. It's great to see all those 100%.
Yes, I agree. Any other comments, please?
I have a rescission motion for the minutes. Do I do that now?
Thank you. Not yet, sorry, Councillor Moore. Any other comments from the action reports? Very quiet. Okay, no, just go on. Yep. Disclosure of interest, please.
So we do have a couple of disclosures of interest this evening for you.
Oh, sorry.
So we have a couple of forms here, one from Councillor O'Neill and one from Councillor Hicks.
in relation to two items on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No more minute, but there is a rescission motion, number one, and I'll ask councillor Morgan to speak to it, please.
Thank you. I have a rescission motion from the minutes of the November 18 meeting for council. It reads as in your papers with regards to the behavioural guidance and suspension and termination of enrolment policies. The council rescind the policies and return them in their corrected format for resolution at the February 19th meeting of council. The reason for the rescission is that the documents as they were presented to council weren't correct in a lot of ways. The behavioural guidance policy was presented as a child safety policy, and the suspension and termination policy was the other one. That's in Annex 2 of cases paper from the last meeting. The reason for giving this notice is due to the fast pace of the November 18th meeting, the 20th. Well, we'd had inadequate time was made possible to discuss the proposed policies. Councillors were reassured that the corrections would be made. However, they weren't forthcoming since. I made a request prior to that meeting to lay the policies aside for reworking and correction. And subsequent communication regarding the format and the content of this document was not satisfactory. A reworked draft was not presented as requested. The draft minutes of the meeting named the behavioural policy the child safety policy, and that was incorrect. And my request is that the director provide both the current adopted policy from that last meeting and the corrected draft policy highlighting the changes for councillors to ensure that they've been made prior to submission and posting on the website.
Thanks, councillor Morton. Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor O'Neill, councillor Hume. Any opposition to the motion? Rescission.
I think over there, we should suspend standing orders so that we can discuss what Councillor Morton said.
Certainly.
It's not very clear what we're actually discussing.
Excuse me, councillor Quinn, can you put your speaker on, please?
I move that we suspend standing orders so that we can discuss openly what Councillor Morton is talking about, so that we know what's going on.
Councillor Quinn is moving
I'll second that.
to suspend standing orders. Thank you, councillor Hicks. Councillor Quinn, do you wish to comment?
Well, we suspend standing orders, we can have a full discussion about it already.
Put your mic on, please.
The idea, Madam Mayor, of suspending standing orders is so that we can have a frank and open discussion about a matter, and that's what we need to do, so that we can look at this rescission motion properly.
Totally understand that, councillor Quinn. What would you like to ask councillor Morton?
First of all, Madam Mayor, I've moved a motion that we suspend standing orders. If that's the case, put it to the meeting first.
All in favour? All in favour?
I would like Councillor Morton to explain the first part of what she wants done so that we can understand and just move through the different processes and then.
Certainly. Thank you for your question. The policies as they were presented at the meeting were not fit for us to be posted, passed and put out for public viewing. There was a lot of mistakes in the proposed posted policies. I've since written some corrections and suggestions and put that to the director concerned with overseeing that motion. The logos on one of the policies were not the Greater Hume logos, and they had the Children's Services logo on them. If we adopted them as a council, and that was not satisfactory for public. It was a little bit too casual.
on the header of those papers, being brand new policies, they were not indicated to be version 1. There was version 4 and version 5. That was on the header. On the footer of those documents, the documents did not have a name, and also they did not have a version number. They also had an indication on the papers that they had been passed. That should have been left blank so that they could be, that date could have been fitted in at the time when the policies are ready to be posted. They were presented to us in draft form, and the only thing that should have been changed on that form, I would expect when a policy comes across council, is that the shadow of draft is taken off, and then it can go forward to the public. I was not happy with the format and the way that it was written, and therefore I am advocating for more professionalism. Thank you.
So well, we suspended standing order, so it's a bit of an open conversation. In the past, and you're probably not privy to it, but that's generally how the documents are presented to the meeting, and then the directors are afforded the opportunity to, prior to going out to the public arena, to sort those documents out into a satisfactory and a public ready form. So I don't think that I've seen, since I've been on the council for the last 8 years, that we voted on a policy that hasn't had draft across it and that hasn't been finally tweaked once we've adopted it. So
Thanks for your comment, Councillor Hicks. In my opinion, to be a professional organisation, it's up to us to put our signature to passing that motion. I was not, those papers, I was not happy with the way that they were presented nor formatted. Assistance from those of us who are responsible for those policies, I'd like to see them be a little bit more in the matter of quality management. Thank you.
Well done.
Kerry, oh, sorry. Should say Councillor Morton. It is a bit unusual that you found so many mistakes, nobody else has commented for a start, and then wouldn't it be, did you contact the person involved for putting that document together personally to have a sit down chat about it, or did you just send an email? It would have been nice if you hadn't had a personal chat to sort of discuss some of those finer details, because it's a pretty blatant way to approach something. You've said some pretty harsh words in amongst your statement, I feel. It's almost, I can't think of the word myself now. That happens to me, unfortunately, even after 14 years here. Almost derogatory is one word I'm coming, just popped into my head, but it's rather rude, actually, I felt, the way you've put it. Being new, I would have thought you would have perhaps approached the person, gone in with your books and your notes and sat down, had a bit of discussion. You may have been given some more sympathetic ear to how it would evolve to be put out onto public viewing.
I think I'd just like to make a comment. Both Councillor Morton and Councillor O'Neill did make comments before the meeting. Yes, it was probably a little bit late, but yes, they did both make comments. I made some comments. I expect it to, when it comes to council, that it comes as it should be adopted and no changes should be made after that. I think that is common practice. And I suppose Councillor Morton being new, yes, perhaps that might have been an option, but she is new and she's eager and she's thorough. So I guess, yeah, you know, we need to be considerate that
I
she's new.
understand that, Councillor Parker, but it's just that the experienced ones, perhaps it seems she came to you, might have guided her a little bit softer than just coming in bluntly. Thank you.
She didn't come to me. She had concerns and she sent them to the director.
I'd just like to say that if there is going to be significant changes to the paper, then if we voted on a paper, I agree with Councillor Morton that the change should indicate removal of draft for endorsement. Anything beyond that is different to what we've agreed upon.
Correct, that's what my interpretation.
Just one last comment. Whether I'm new to council or not, I'm very much across the Local Government Act and the Code of Meeting Practice. My language is my language, and that's the way it is. I've had a lot to do with writing policies, assessing policies and quality management over my career. I'm not just straight off the street. Thank you very much for the comments though. I will take those on board and I will work hard on listening and communicating better with the directors. Thank you.
Can I just also add that as a councillor Morton, you are entitled to challenge things and to question things. That is your role. You're not to be guided by everyone in this room. There is nothing wrong with challenging things. I don't think that if the tone was derogative, then perhaps there's an issue, but I think there's no issue in challenging things. And that's the point of standing motions, to discussion, and that's what we're doing.
Correct. Any other comments?
I'll just make one comment, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councillor Hooper that that's a good opportunity to challenge things, but from my experience on council, which has only been 4 years, that I've found the best way to challenge things is prior to a meeting, so that we're actually giving the directors as much opportunity as they can to actually assess things, rather than have things thrown on them then and there on that occasion, like spur of the moment, because sometimes they do need an opportunity to research potentially, so that they can come back with a correct answer. So my encouragement for all of us would be the more notice that we can give the directors with any questions we have, the easier it is for them and for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Linda. Would anyone like to move it? We go back in?
I don't see anything wrong with the policy that presented. But everybody's got entitled to their opinion, and the English language council Hooper is a thing that people can play around on. And we can spend a lot of time on the see some action. I want to have a discussion on the decision motion with what's intended. I'm happy to move that we still stand order.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Morton. All those in favour? So I'll move that the precision motion is.
So you can
Put that to motion.
Unless there's any more discussion.
Any more discussion? No? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? So Councillor Quinn, Councillor Hooper, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Morton, Councillor Parker. Sorry. Councillor.
So we've got Councillor
Morton,
Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Hooper,
Councillor Quinn,
and Councillor Quinn and Councillor Parker. Yeah.
and against is Shilg, Linda and Hicks. I declare that carried. And now over to you, to the auditors.
Yes, we're up to we're up to part A. And so I think we'll just, perhaps, Louise, do you want to see if the auditors are there, and we can present the first item of the officers'
First
report.
item, corporate and community services.
Before that mean that all those policies are going around the table now for the time being?
Just until February. I think there's the child safe policy and the suspension and termination enrolment policy will come back to the February meeting.
That's correct. So the intention now, perhaps just to clarify, is we will through a workshop process councillors early February, with the intention to bring those policies back to the February meeting for hopefully for adoption.
Correct. So item 1 is a presentation of the 23-24 financial statements. You remember we had a bit of trouble last meeting with the audio from the auditors. So over to you, Director of Corporate Services.
We would like to invite you to speak now, please.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Hopefully, we will not have any more issues like last time. Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity to present an update on the financial audit for 2024. Thank you to Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors for this invitation. I will go through the report on the conduct of the audit very briefly. First of all, I would just like to advise the members here that Nero is the director on this audit of Greater Hume Shire Council from the Audit Office of New South Wales. She's currently on leave and not in office. I'm sort of presenting the report on her behalf. I was the associate director on the audit of Greater Hume Shire Council for this year, or I should say last year. So first of all, I'm very pleased to report to you that we issued a clean audit opinion for the council's financial statements for 2023-24, which means basically the financial statements contain no material misstatements and present fairly the operations. As part of the audit process, we have noted that council's audit risk and improvement committee have reviewed the financial statements and the results of the audit, which was presented to them at the October meeting. In previous years, our audit report on the council's general purpose financial statements was qualified due to the issue of non-recognition of RFS assets, which are vested to the council from the Rural Fire Service. However, this year the previous qualification was a limitation of scope because of the lack of reliable information provided to us, which concluded us to present a limitation on the scope of the financial audit of the councils. However, this year we have performed some work around that. We obtained a listing of vested assets from RFS. We perform some test around completeness and existence and the nature and age and the carrying value of those assets. And we noted that those assets are not material for the councils and for the auditors, for us as well to take a qualification in perspective. However, we still believe the council controls these assets and should recognize those assets in the financial statement, but the non-recognition is not material enough for us to qualify the audit opinion for this year. Just to note one more thing, in this 2023-24, Council had a comprehensive valuation of its infrastructure assets through an independent expert. The review of the valuation data was performed by us, the auditors, which identified a correction in the depreciation of the sub-base component of the pavements, which is one of the components of roads assets within the infrastructure assets. The management determined that the impact of the error was significant to the council's financial statements, and that was adjusted retrospectively in the financials in accordance with the accounting standards. That information is presented more in detail in note G1-6, if I'm correct with the reference. This error resulted in a correction of $31.8 million in the value of the fixed assets. The Office of Local Government, the Office of Local Government's Code also requires a report on the conduct of the audit to be issued by the auditors. So as I said at the start, I'll just quickly go through the key ratios from that report. Overall, the council has met the OLG industry benchmarks for 4 out of the 6 key financial performance ratios in 2024. Council did not meet the operating performance ratio and the own source operating revenue ratio. The operating performance ratio is negative 4.29% compared to the positive 5.92% of previous year. That was due to the increase in the capital grants and an increase in depreciation expense in the current year. The own source operating revenue ratio is 41%, which is fairly consistent with the last 2 years. However, the OLG benchmark for this ratio is at 60%. A brief overlook at the income statement. The council reported a net operating result of $10.8 million for the year 2024. This was $1.8 million higher than the prior year. Again, this was higher due to the grants received in 2023-24, which was partially offset by higher depreciation. The net operating loss before capital grants and contribution was negative $1.7 million, which was $4.7 million lower than last year. That was mainly due to the higher depreciation charge of this 2023-24 year. Rates and revenue, annual charges increased by 4.8%, which is in line with the rate peg increase of 4.7%. So no anomalies noted there. In terms of the balance sheet, council has a very good, healthy position in cash and investments, which was at $29.7 million, which provides a strong cash flow position for the future financial sustainability of the council. Of this, externally restricted cash sits at $13.5 million at June 24. These cash levels resulted in council meeting the OLG benchmark for the unrestricted current ratio. The council also have borrowings of $3 million. And in terms of the fixed assets, council spent almost $20 million in the asset renewals, which is an increase of $10.8 million from last year. So the main spend on the fixed assets this year was on the roads and repairing assets which were damaged by the floods in the last 2-3 years. Overall, the council has reported sound financial results and met 4 out of the 6 ratios, as I said earlier. That's almost at the end of my report. And the end, I also would like to thank Evelyn, Louise, Dean, and the entire staff of the council for their professionalism and the cooperation which they extended to the audit team. Just to let the members know here that this was our first in-house audit of the council. In the previous years, Greater Hume Council was being audited by a service provider, but this year the audit office did the audit by themselves, like we were on the field by ourselves. So we would again like to thank everyone in the council for a very smooth audit process. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. We would also like to thank yourself and we enjoyed our experience with the audit office, and you put in a lot of work and want to extend our gratitude to your team. So thank you. Did anyone in the room have any questions or comments for you, Matt? Dean, did you feel like you wanted to make any comments?
Louis, I think that UNAB has given us a good summary of what's happened in this financial year. Couple of things I'd probably comment on. Due to our size, the size of our council, we'll probably never meet that benchmark of the own source revenue, and that's been long-standing recognition. So that's just one thing. The operating performance ratio is oftentimes very skewed by one-off grant income, such as the FAG grant, which we received 85% of in advance this year. If that turns around in the future, then we could see a worsening result. And unfortunately, that's just the way the accounting standards work. Generally, the biggest thing in our financial statements was the prior period adjustment that UNAB mentioned. And so that's taken care of now, and we won't be needing to do any further prior period adjustments on that. Just need to depreciate going forward. I think that's all I need to say, Louise, unless anyone has a question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. So there's a recommendation there on page 6. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Thanks, councillor Linda.
I'll second.
Thanks, sorry.
Sorry.
Thanks, councillor Quinn. Any opposition to the motion? I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? All in favour? Declare to carry. Thank you. Item 2, interim 23-24 quarterly budget review. As at the 30th September, there is a motion on a.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Quinn. Seconder, councillor O'Neill. Is there any commentary, any comments? Thank you, councillor O'Neill.
Sorry, I'm just wondering, the Henty newsletter, 213%. Like gold plating.
What page? Sorry, councillor O'Neill.
I would write it down, but I had it. Just the 230% of the amount obviously being spent. Then there seem to be a few other things that are, for actually one that is surely over 25% expenditure.
I actually, yeah. I actually sat down with Dean for about 2.5 hours and went through my questions that I had, and he was fantastic. So I'm sure that if you've got some questions to ask. Yeah. Any other comments?
Yeah, sorry, I do have another one. Now, at our last workshop, I did mention that the 25,000 for the Gindra shared bike path study was still in as an uncompleted work or unexpended anyway. And I did comment that that would be really good to transfer that money to the shade sales, of which requires 25,000 to finish the shade sales. Mr. Blakey did prepare a report for this meeting, but it was withdrawn. So I'm a bit disappointed that, particularly after reading Rewrite's response to the new code of conduct meetings about workshops, and saying we have to be very careful that the workshops don't just provide a decision-making process before you get to the meeting and be able to have a discussion. And I was said very disappointed. I was suggested that we'll go to February. Well, by the time we have our February workshop, our February meeting, and then hopefully it would be passed. But by the time you order these things, we'll probably be in winter. So it's just disappointing that that happened. And I think that things should be able to come to a meeting and have the discussion at the meeting, particularly for that sort of smaller amount of money.
Thank you, councillor Neil. Any other comments, questions? I'll put the vote. All in favour? All in favour? Thank you. To declare that carried. Item 1, engineering and planning, development application 10/20/24 for 2. Yes. Sorry, we have a disclosure of non-pecuniary interest from councillor O'Neill. She's left the room. Thank you, councillor Quinn. Thank you, councillor Lindner. Any comments?
Madam Mayor, somehow down the track, Gindra Street's got to be addressed, and I suggest it's got to be addressed associated with this subdivision. We want expansion and everything else, that's for sure. But the bottom line is what's created shouldn't fall on the rest of the ratepayers. It's like it's been a nagging sore for years, Madam Mayor, but we let sewer go on to all sorts of new subdivisions, and then everybody across the whole shire paid. Who's sewer? The Henty people paid for the update, Gindra and vice versa. Now I think we should change the system so by the developer kicks in and make sure that what they're creating is covered.
I share your concerns. I think that Gindra Street definitely needs a footpath. There's a lot of young families that are living in that area, and it's a safety issue. So there's something that we really do need to be looking at in the new year, for sure. Any other comments?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'm very concerned by the amount of big established trees that are going to be removed as a result of this. And I'm a little bit baffled as to how special permission has been granted, like how that process has gone. So I'm just wondering, maybe Mr. Kane, or if anyone can like explain how that's happened, because I can see that there'll be a potential big uproar in the community when they find out how many big established trees are going to be removed, especially when throughout communities we're hearing constantly about wanting green belts. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Kane, would you like to comment?
Well, look, the legislation, as the Speaker said tonight, is state government legislation, the Biodiversity Conservation Act, and it governs in residential land the removal of trees. And yes, there is some trees that will have to be removed for this development to proceed, but that legislation has got a hierarchy of actions which essentially you've got to show that you've avoided and minimised impacts on vegetation before you offset them. And so the applicant has had to work through a very comprehensive process of addressing the Biodiversity Conservation Act, which they have done. And ultimately, you're right, some trees will go, but they have to pay for an offset somewhere else for those trees, so that the trees where they buy that offset will be retained in perpetuity. And that's how the system works. But that's the last resort. And that's why you find that the upgrade to Ginger Street couldn't go ahead, and the service road had to go in, because would have resulted in the loss of the trees along Ginger Street on the western side of Ginger Street. And ultimately that's the action of the legislation as the government designed it. And so yes, there's some trees going. Some people may find that distressing, but the system is very, very robust. And like I said, those trees, environmental credits will have to be bought and offset those trees.
Any other comments? Councillor Shield.
Now it's red. There were a lot of concerns when I started to read this, but this is actually, can you just clarify, through you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Kane, this is the first part of the DA process. So if it's approved tonight, then there'll be other sections of a DA to come forward, or is that not the case?
Ultimately, tonight is the development consent. So that gives the proponent surety that they've got the consent of council, and they'll see those conditions that you see before you, and then they have to work through there. There's a few stop points, like the subdivision construction certificate stage, where they subdivision work certificate. They have to apply for that, and they have to show more detailed designs at that point before they can proceed. And then another stop point is the occupation certificate. And so there's some stop decision points in the process where additional information is provided, and then council decides whether that's sufficient for that actual proposal to proceed.
Thank you. With Councillor Linda on the trees, that just, yes, you know what I'm like with my trees. It's just those box gums, you know, there is a shortage of those around, and it is sad that that's part of development. And with the just lost it, the carbon credits, how is that really policed? I mean, was it 100 kilometres, within 100 kilometres of the development? Did I read? How does that'd be nicer if they were a bit closer to the actual development instead of somewhere far, you know, far flung.
It's an instant by the state.
Yes.
And so that's not for council. The council, the process is an environmental assessor does an assessment, and he prepares but he prepares a report, VDA, and which is an acronym, and from that VDA he determines what level of environmental credits are needed to be acquired, and they can be for species and they can be for actual environment and then the proponent goes into the market and tries to acquire those, but there's rules about where they are acquired. You can't go to a completely different, biodiversity area and buy those credits there to offset your credits. And that's how the market works because, in our area, where you're quite right, the box woodland is getting quite scarce. The credits are quite sought after, and so the value of the credit is quite high, and that's the market mechanism in place. And so the scarcer the vegetation, the more people are looking for those credits, the willing sellers of those credits, the more demand, the higher the price, and then also the more the incentive to, this is the argument of the legislation, which I have nothing to do with, to avoid and minimise, so you don't need to buy those credits. The credits are the last resort. So you have to show that you can avoid and minimise first, and that market mechanism and that high cost of that credit may be the incentive to decide, oh, do I really want to have that extra block? Because the cost of me acquiring that extra block in terms of the credits that I've got to buy means that there's no profit margin for me. And so I decided not to continue with that extra block because there's too many trees on it. And so the system has been around since about 2018, 2019, and that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm aware it's been around for a while, but it's just right on our doorstep this time in a big way. And the clarification was earlier about the footpath, because we had heard months ago that we would now be hoping or expecting the developers to provide footpaths, curb and guttering. And that's what we were assured would happen somewhere else in the Shire, and it didn't, and now we're having to fork out for the footpath. But anyway, thank you.
Yes, please.
So look, we require as a any subdivision now, we require a footpath on one side of the road. It's in our engineering guidelines. In this case, they are providing a footpath on their service road. This is a service road now that they're providing. There is issues with pedestrians in the area, but I believe that this subdivision won't exacerbate that pedestrian problem, because I think they'll use the problem's there regardless of whether the subdivision proceeds, because the people from the 20 lots in this subdivision will use their footpath that's provided on the service road, and they'll go down to the Diet Street and they'll cross over onto Diet Street. And everybody else is using the road is coming from other development upstream where there is a footpath, and we have required a footpath in those developments, but Ginnery Street is an existing street, and that footpath is not there. I would say, sorry, Madam Mayor, keep going. We could look at potentially funding that footpath in Ginnery Street through our Section 712 contributions, and that might be appropriate because all of those people in those subdivisions that would benefit from the footpath have paid those Section 712 contributions, and so that could be a source of revenue for this. And in a way, the development is funding the infrastructure. It's just in another way.
Thank you. That's a great idea. Do you, Councillor Shield?
It sounds feasible because sometimes it goes elsewhere, so it'd be great to keep it right there.
Definitely. Any other commentary, comments, questions? Can I put it to a vote? All those in favour? All in favour? Thank you. I declare it carried. Sorry. We'll just wait for Councillor O'Neill to come back in. Item 2, development application 1024-14.
I'll move that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks.
Second that recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Wyndham. Any comments, questions? No? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? All in favour, declared it carried. Item number 3, planning proposal amended Greater Hume local environmental plan 197 Urana Road. Thank you, councillor Quinn.
I'll second it.
Thank you, councillor O'Neill. Any comments? Any questions? The recommendation is on page 74.
I think it's, going to be a great project because certainly need aged care housing in Gindra.
Closer, sorry. Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you.
it's going to be a great project, I think.
Thank you, councillor O'Neill. Any other comments? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? All in favour, declare it carried. Item number 4, amendment to Greater Hume Local Government, Local Environmental Plan 2012, the 2028 Colcan Road, Colcan Holbrook Road and Morven Gulpidinia Road, Morven. Can I have a mover to the recommendation on page 79?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Shield. Councillor Morton, are you happy to second it? Any comments?
Question, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Planner, why aren't we waiting for the Morven structure plan? It was talked about a little while ago.
Well, look, councils, independent planning proposals can come in, councillor Quinn, and then council is held to assessment bonds from the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure. And so, we wouldn't be able to hold off that. And it isn't a big, particularly big site, like at this, it's yielding 6 lots, so, it's in itself, it could proceed now in my mind, it's not going to close down the development edge for Morven. There's still plenty of opportunities for development to come off from others in planning spots in Morven, and so some way it's an isolated proposal.
It meets many of the criteria, although there is still a little bit of work to be done. And but I think it could go ahead in front of the settlement strategy.
Any other comments or questions?
Another comment, Madam Mayor, that I've got no real drama with it at all. And the fact of the matter is, if we keep approving of these, will the structure plans right across the Shire around Hetty and that take place, or will they just get moved back another year or two? Is it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I've actually gone out now with the structure plan, and it's out for pricing, and so it'd be my intention that a structure plan should be finished by the financial year, hopefully, or thereabouts. So certainly not. I think the structure plan should go ahead.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just say, like, I'm with councillor Quinn on that. It's like, well, we can go ahead and move some of these things, but we can get a structure plan, and it could end up being not in our best interest regarding a structure plan, like something contrary. So I think, yeah, we need to be moving quickly with the structure plans so that when developments do come up, we get it as right as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor Lindner. I'll put the motion, the recommendation to a vote on page 79. All those in favour? All in favour, declare it carried. Item number 5, request for a voluntary planning agreement for the Gindra Battery Energy Storage System.
I'll move that recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Hicks, and thank you, councillor Lindner. Do we have any comments, please? Sorry.
Planner, how many MVH is it going to be? Any idea?
I don't know. Well, I do know that it's not coming along. It's substantial. It's not a little battery. I think the figure that was put to me was about 350 million, and I think these batteries run at about 1 million per megawatt hour of storage. So that should be about that.
Wouldn't mind, Madam Mayor, wouldn't mind making a comment about this.
You'll note there that I talked about a new benefit sharing guideline that the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure has released. It's hot off the press, November 2024. Prior to that guideline, I was negotiating with this group for a significantly higher BPR, And that guideline has essentially taken wind out of our sails, because the government is saying, here's the line in the sand, and it's significantly less for us. And, I think actually that guideline is not great again, it's similar councils that are not in the renewable energy zones. I actually think the council can consider doing a bit of advocating, about that guideline, because, yeah, I think that guideline sort of takes us back to where we were almost 6 years ago, when renewables first came to the Shire and they were proposing to pay nothing. But they are going to pay something under these guidelines, but it's at a level that is lower than what we were negotiating previously on the days. And the way that the money comes to council is all in small incremental payments, which makes it very hard to fund significant infrastructure, because you lose the money by having to borrow against it. So you've got all that costs involved in servicing loans. If you were going to borrow against the money, it's good for the company, but the best outcome for a council like us in terms of VGA is front-end payments, a lump sum up front. And this does not do that for us. It just pays. It pays as a. It pays based on the megawatts of solar that's produced, or the megawatts of megawatt hours of battery storage, and it just pays a flat rate. So what you find is, yes, this one will pay approximately $2 million over 30 odd years that it might run, but that number essentially equates to 50 grand a year. And so doing and taking something to do with that is, you know, it's nice, it's good, but it's not as good as getting like a $700,000 upfront payment that we were getting under all this document payment. And so I think, I don't think the document's great for council. I think perhaps we should have a think about whether we have a bit through rewrite.
I agree.
Whether the document.
Why are we not in the belt, as you said, the renewables belt?
Well, you've got renewable energy zones, residents, just not in ones. It's that, it's the northwest. So then number of them, Armadale, you know, out to Grand Hay. That's just where the government's put a line around and said that's a renewable energy zone. There's some slightly different rules in that area.
So is that something that we need to be advocating for? Like that's my question.
Well, I think renewable energy zones, I would suggest side, and I don't think any of that was around that. I don't believe that the government to change whether renewable energy zones are covered. But having said that, I'm not sure if it's anything for the council or not, but you can go to market and sell that amount of money to, say, superannuation company or something like that. It's one of your investments. So they will put a proposal together, you'll get lump sum payment straight out. Obviously, it's going to be discounted and won't be the same as what you get over 30 years, but you'll then have your lump sum money, and then you can go and do that utilities. So I think that's possibly something that should be looking into if it's possible for government such as the council to do that.
Council Morton,
Question. Put your microphone pushed and it went on and off. At $1.50 a megawatt hour, I'm looking at the benefit sharing policy that just came out. Section 5 gives us an example of a 600 megawatt battery, similar to what would be in, that's significantly bigger than what is being proposed here. The cost doesn't look like, as you indicated, it doesn't look significant. I note that in the proposal, the letter that they gave us, they asked us to be able to present that $1.50, which is what the policy suggests, no more, no less. Is it? Sorry, it's well per megawatt hour. Sorry, 150. Is there any opportunity for us to do an analysis on how much that is likely to get? Is it just while the battery is being used or stored? Is it for the whole year? How many megawatt hours make up a year in order for us to assess how much?
The way I read the document is that they seek approval for, say, a 350 megawatt battery. Doesn't matter how much they're storing or how they're using it. They just pay. They sign up with the VDA at the beginning, And in the approval that they get from the state government, it'll say sign up with a VPA in accordance with the benefit sharing guideline. It'll be 350 times $150.
I also note that that letter that they sent us talks about that deal in lieu as to our contribution scheme, which is 0.010.
1%.
Yeah, it is 1%. Would it be worth doing a cost comparison?
We're absolutely way on 1%. And but
they're exempt from 7.2.
the government has always said that they haven't had to pay, but a lot of the VPAs that we signed were close to 1%.
Yeah.
And now I think my maths on this guideline is we're not at 1%. So if this document, if the capital investment value is 350 million, we should have been able to potentially sign a VPA around 3.5 million, and now we're getting 2.12.
Is there an opportunity to negotiate that?
Is there an opportunity to negotiate that? The letter that they sent us is a suggestion.
I think we've got a weak hand.
Yeah.
I don't think we've got a great hand to do any negotiating at all. I tried to do some other negotiations on another VPA recently, and once this document's come in, really, all the wind out my sails. Yeah.
Councillor Hooper.
Sorry. I think we shouldn't negotiate anymore. We should talk to the minister involved and say our new legislation has totally disadvantaged us. Come on, be upfront. We're all in the one state, and if you're favouring one part of the state to the other, that's completely unjust.
That was my point about the belts. Yeah, why? Councillor Hooper.
Yeah, just a couple of questions for clarity, Mr. Kane. So what's the timeline on this? Like, excuse my naivety on this field, but is there a chance? You've said that we've been dealt a pretty low blow and we want to review this policy. What's our timeline on providing a response? Is there a second opportunity to enter an agreement where our strong hand might be stronger?
Council can pretty well choose whatever avenue it wants to go on negotiating these VPAs. There's no statutory time frame. They're trying to get it together and have council agree to it so that they will flag it in the EIS that they produce that they've met their community benefits requirements, and then the EIS will have that number in there and they'll say they've already negotiated with council. If you choose not to take this tonight and say, you know, you want to do a bit more advocating, that could be an alternative resolution that you could make. And we'll just leave it and
see how you go.
I think then, I mean, personally, I just think there might be some merit in trying to strengthen our hand if that's the case, because this is a long-standing agreement and it's not something that's just going to affect us for a year. It's going to go on for multiple years.
Given that this is the first one that's come across our desks, it's the new guidelines came out in November. It's important that we look at it carefully. Perhaps we could write a letter to the minister to have him reconsider or give us clarity on the issue. My concern is that as these foreign companies have these projects set up, they're not shovel ready, they're built, but they sell them on. It's a financial thing, these venture companies. Would there be any guarantee that when they sell it on, that agreement would stay in place? Do they sell them with the agreement in place?
Yes, they do. They're usually, because they're interwound into the development consent stays with the land. And so the requirement to comply, if it goes from one entity to another entity, the requirement is there on the development consent, and the department as the consent authority should hold them to the new owner to it.
So could I perhaps suggest that we could make a couple of extra points to the recommendation in terms of advocacy through REROC, but also writing to the minister asking for clarification about the belts and so forth? Would you? Zones, sorry.
Yes, renewable energy.
Zones, sorry, my mistake. Would anyone like to make those suggestions?
Well, I'll put those 2 points you raised, Madam Mayor, as the motion,
Yes,
and I'll leave the recommendation as present, if you come back, you all else fails.
So just to clarify then, we're going to leave the motion as and add points, or are we going to say that we don't, going to amend the motion to just do the advocacy? Just for the sake of the clarity for myself and the minute taker.
First of all, during you, Madam Mayor, we should approach the minister and suggest that it's not there. That should be the case, we should have said. So we stall the recommendation, and my motion is that we approach the minister. That's seek the help of Rerock and see if we can get a better deal.
yeah. An amendment to the motion will be that we make a representation to the minister. And we also seek support from Rerock.
Then becomes the motion.
Yep.
This other motion just disappears from the final vote.
So just to you, so the first point is that we seek.
Minister, seek clarification with the minister.
Okay, so these points.
Is that right, Mr. Councillor Quinn?
To seek clarification from the minister. Do we want to actually stipulate which minister we're talking about here? Do we?
In minister, the
Renewal.
Yeah.
Minister of Planning and Housing and Infrastructure. And then point 2 that we seek support from Rerock in advocacy to advocate on this matter.
Speaking to the motion, Madam Mayor, I think that's the way to go. This recommendation in front of us won't disappear. If we have to have a fallback case, we can come back to that, but we try this first.
So you're moving the recommendation, the amendment, sorry, second by councillor Hooper. Any comments against? I'll put the vote, all those in favour, all in favour. So I declare that being carried, so then that becomes the motion. So can I have a mover and seconder again? Councillor Quinn, is that right?
Really, Madam Mayor, I moved the motion, but completely,
So you don't want to do an amendment to the motion?
no, it's not an amendment, it's a
Okay.
new motion. And the recommendation on the favour is ignored for the final vote.
Thank you.
So that's my word.
No, that's okay.
So this just became the motion and
It's all carried.
yeah, and we've carried, so we're great.
Yep, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, councillor Quinn. Item number 1 in governance, the retail energy tender small sites. There is a recommendation on page 86.
I'll move that recommendation.
Thanks, councillor Linda. Thanks, councillor Hooper. Any comment or against? No, put the motion. All in favour? All in favour? Declare that carried. Item number 2, general manager's leave, is on page 87. Can I have a mover? Thanks, councillor Hicks. Councillor Lindner. Any comments? All in favour? Declare that carried. Page number 88, number 1 of engineering, active transport fund.
Move the recommendation.
I'll just go to the page of that one. So page 90, there's councillor Hicks and councillor Shield.
So just through you, Madam Mayor, sorry, there's a change to, there's amendment to this motion. We've had to change the numbers, and I believe if I can call on acting director just to explain as far as he's aware why the numbers on this particular recommendation moved slightly.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I received an email from our grants officer basically saying that the grant funding has changed, the level has changed. I will have to take part of that on notice, Madam Mayor, to find out exactly why the change is, because it's not specific in the email that I've received, only the dollar amounts. Basically, the Burrumbuttock walking path. The funding has increased by about $9,000. Culhang Golf Course walking path, that's increased by about $27,000. And the Henty Red Reserve shared path has gone from 689,000 to 695. The impact of that is that the council's matching contribution therefore increases as well. To the 50% level, which for the walking path for Burrumbuttock, it's $378,647. I've got these figures separately if you want them at any time. The Culhang Golf Course goes to 215,183, and the Henty CBD Rec Reserve shared path goes to 347,589. But I will find out exactly why the changes have been made, whether it's the granting authority has revised their plan and said, here's more money.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
get back to you.
I think the council's contribution only goes up by about 17,000 by my calculations. Any comments?
Sorry,
Councillor?
I'm thinking through you, Madam Mayor, to the General Manager. Where would we get the 50% from if these are approved or even if one's approved?
So that will, so as part of it will be a contribution, but we'll have to look, so obviously what we're looking at doing with that is we will look at how we can fund it if we are successful. So really this is the first stage in this process to be able to get an application in by the 13th of January. And then if we're successful on that, we'll need to do a budget amendment to, and I believe there's a time frame on this that's quite long in terms of the actual spend. So we'll have time to review the budget and be able to leverage off this project. So our main goal at the moment is a council commitment and being able to put the application in to be in the race, I guess. And then from there, if we're successful, we'll come back to council with where the funding would come from. But I believe with these particular ones, it may also trigger a footpath policy. And so that will require more work from the team if we get if we're successful in these applications.
Any other questions or comments? No, just about to do that. Would you like to do that? Councillor Quinn and seconder, Councillor Shield. All those in favour? Declare to carry. Number 2.
Hicks and Shield did already.
Oh, Hicks and Shield did already. Sorry, Councillor Quinn. You're out of the race.
I was going to say, I thought we did, but I was wrong.
We did talk to it, so we must have. Item 2, Gelbart Road construction project, and I'll just say that Councillor Hicks has left the room for a non-security interest.
I move the recommendation.
The recommendation is on page 94, and Councillor O'Neill is moving the recommendation. Can I have a second to Councillor Morton? Any comments, please? Councillor O'Neill.
Time coming.
Any other comments? Councillor Linda.
Yeah. I reiterate my comments via email that I'm extremely concerned about the intersection on Urana Road and the chances of a fatality.
Thanks, Councillor Linda. Any other comments? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? So Councillor Morton, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Hooper, Councillor Quinn, Councillor Parker. So,
And yeah, sorry.
just checking. Yep. And against is Councillor Shield and Councillor Linda. Oh, Councillor Hicks back in. Item 3, LRIC CIP round 4.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks and Councillor Linda. Any commentary? Councillor O'Neill.
Sorry, as previously, and it's my own fault because I wasn't concentrating. I was very tired the last workshop. I'm surprised that we actually didn't have a few other projects forward for this funding, unfinished business. And I'm referring to the playground, parking, drainage, dump point, whatnot, Gindra, which is, you know, unfinished and has been for 12 months. So I'm just sorry I missed out on sort of seeing, but I thought, well, that was a project that is planned for that perhaps should have been put forward as an alternative.
I thought we handled that big car park.
No, still haven't got it done. No. Any other comments?
With the workshop, this should stay alive there.
Thank you, councillor Quinn. I will put the motion. All those in favour? All in favour, declare to carry. Item number 4, support for the Henty Heritage Museum, and the recommendation is on page 98.
Move the recommendation, please.
Councillor Shield, councillor Hooper. Any commentary, questions?
It'd be wonderful for council support. They've been working long and hard on this project, and just to ask for support, it's really amazing. They've done a lot of work.
It's very exciting, isn't it? I heard of some few details, and yeah, it'll be fantastic for Henty. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd actually like to pay a huge compliment to the Henty community, because this would be probably the only project in my time on council where they're just asking council for a letter of support rather than funds. And I think that potentially a lot of other communities maybe need to take a leaf out of the Henty book. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Lindner. Any other comments? No? Put the motion. All in favour? All in favour, declare to carry. Item number 5, permission for footpath at Balfour Street, Colcan. And there is a recommendation on page 101.
I will move the recommendation.
Councillor O'Neill, his recommendation. Councillor Lindner seconds it. I'd just like to make one comment. I was a bit saddened to see that email, the email come through from a ratepayer. And I'm just wondering if a staff member could make contact with that ratepayer, because she's very concerned about how she's going to pay it, and give us some options, you know, explain the process, I guess, because it is a lot of money.
Happy to do that. That will be part of our standard process when we go back to support the ratepayers.
I need to add that in the recommendation. No.
Standard practice over many years, Madam Mayor, that we get 1 or 2 complaints, and there's all sorts of reasons why people don't want to pay, but they give it lots of time.
Yeah, that's right. There's 7 years, I think, isn't
It
it?
generally gets away, but once they realise that it's put in front of the public, they'll change it.
Just as long as they don't understand the process. That was my comment. Any other comments? No, councillor O'Neill, you're got no light on. Okay, I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? All in favour, declare to carry. Yep.
Can we just, do we have a mover and seconder for that motion?
Yeah, O'Neill. Yeah, radio.
No, sorry, just. It is all right. Yeah, we've got it. Thank you.
Sorry.
No.
It was.
Officer support, part B, corporate and community services, combined investment account. I've just got, if I may, I've just got a couple of comments.
We better move.
Oh, you better move it, yes, you better
I was
move
going to
it.
move part B, C and D. If you've got comments, I'm sure you can.
Thank you. Thank you, seconder, councillor Lindner. So councillor Hickson's councillor Lindner. I had a conversation with the general manager about, and I'm sure that councillor Quinn's had the same conversation about the Northern Territory Treasury Corp investments and such low interest rates. The staff did some analysis for me, and sadly would be worse off by 25,000 if we actually did take our money out of that at this stage. So yes, we're currently getting an average of 1.26% of a 5 million investment, but that's what it is. They'll come to maturity next year. But I'd also like council to consider in the future supporting our local banks when investing, as they invest in our communities. And I'd like to have a bit of a workshop, maybe, to talk about that in the future. about using like, you know, Bendigo and Hume banks because they've stuck by our communities and so the other banks haven't. That's just comments. Any other comments?
Madam Mayor, I've got a few with the REROC submission. It's that we receive and noted, but I think it makes a lot of sense, the suggestions that REROC have put forward with Julie Briggs. And I think that's, yes, it's a great one to support. Sorry, 109 and 123.
Yep.
In the tourism and promotions report, I've just got a couple of things that I made note of, 113 and 123. The Australia Day of Hinchies, to save us answering multiple times, explaining why it's at the rec ground and not in the park this year, because it's always been in the park. And there's trees and shade and it's lovely there. Why are we going up to the sports ground and there's no trees, blah, blah, blah. So I know it's because there's other functions happening and there's more facilities and all of that, but I guess I've been approached a few times as to why it was changed. So if something could go up on the library window or something.
Perhaps in the social medias.
Yeah, something like that. And the other one.
Will we have enough shade then?
Oh, council put up the marquee. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Council provides shade, but they're thinking of the lovely shady trees they usually sit under. And in the delivery plan, can't think what page that was on, sorry. It came up earlier, but I thought it was in this section, with uncompleted projects. The Burrumbutty Playground upgrade, can somebody enlighten whether there's an approximate time that may be popped in? It's been on the books for a while and it hasn't been completed yet. And I'm just wondering whether there was a plan of when that may be happening. We can have that.
It looks like a councillor Linda might come to my rescue because I was going to have to take that question on notice, but he might be able to be closer to the project than myself.
Yeah, I'm aware that the Burrumbutty Recreation Ground asked for it to be held over because whether the new playground goes is actually the rubble drains for the old septic system.
Oh, okay.
So rather than digging and finding a bit of a mess, now that the new septic system is in place, it won't matter what is struck. So my guess was that it would be probably reasonably soon.
Thank you. I just thought it's been there for a while and wondered why it was put off. Thank you. A more suitable position. Sounds good.
Any other comments? I've just got one more comment, page 108. Good to see an update on the Funks Pit rehabilitation. We've removed all the gravel from that pit and greened it and put into Walla Walla landfill and Colcan. And there will be a full costing report brought back to the February meeting for that to be completely rehabilitated and finished, which will be nice to get it off our books. Anything else? Any other comments?
Just in regards to that, Madam Mayor, the Walla community, if you could really explain and let them know exactly when that might happen and what will happen with the rehabilitation, because they were a bit not feeling they were left in the dark with the other situation.
With the landfill?
That came up at their CDC. Yes.
With the landfill?
Yes. They may have been, but not everyone knew what was going on and why the trucks were flying around.
Perhaps we might need to write a letter to the CDC and explain that, all right?
Thank you, that'd be good.
Okay. Any other comments? No? I think we've done it. We're finished, right? Oh, sorry. To write a letter.
No, they've just moved the B, C's and D's we removed.
Oh.
And we had some questions, but don't.
Haven't voted, sorry. All those in favour of B, C and D, all in favour, declared it carried.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd just like to take the opportunity to wish everyone a happy Christmas, staff and councillors. Stay safe, enjoy your little break. Thank you. Just declared it closed at 7:27.
Yeah.